you're working on innovative ideas that solve some of the most important problems today, including safety. And what I'd like to do with you is just share with you a little bit of what I see in my seat every day at PwC, meeting with companies all across the globe around innovation. And hopefully bring home to you how important, how relevant what you're working on today and what it might mean to your future. So someone once asked me very recently, they said, is it great to be a student today and at some point entering the workforce? And there was a lot of discussion, and I think some of the parents will appreciate this, there was a lot of discussion around how hard the world is today, how challenging the world is today. But what I would submit to you is, what you're facing today is tremendous opportunity, because there's so many opportunities to innovate. And as we meet with executives, as we meet with business leaders, many of whom you're going to pitch to today, we are in desperate need of innovation. And so the question is, what's driving that? And what's driving that is 4 key trends around the world that drive significant need for ideas and innovation. And I'm going to quickly highlight these trends because they're on the mind of everybody. And I'm going to ask you a couple of questions as we go along the way. And the reason these trends are important is that they're societal. They affect almost every segment of society, not just communities here at FESI, not just in Massachusetts, not just in the United States, but across the globe. So the first major trend that's out there that will drive major innovation is a trend that we call urbanization. So today, anybody want to guess how many people across the world live in cities, in urban areas across the world today? Just what percentage of the world's population? So it's in 10 years, we will get to 70%. Today, we're at 50%. So today, half of our planet lives in cities. In the next 10 years, we go to 70%. That's 1 billion people. That's a lot of zeros. 1 billion people all across the world, here in the US, in Asia, South America, and Africa, will move to cities. The need for innovation to solve those challenges are immense. So if you are the CEO of Ford Motor Company, I'm going to ask you this. If you're the CEO of Ford Motor Company, what are you thinking about as you deal with that trend? Anybody? Yep. Making smaller cars, exactly right. What else are you thinking about if you're Ford Motor Company? Making quieter cars, right? People don't want to be kept up at night if they're all living there. Yep. More cars for more people. Yep. Faster cars. Better gas mileage. That's all right. And guess how they'll solve that challenge? They'll innovate. They'll innovate and they'll figure out new ways to build quieter cars. They'll figure out new ways to navigate in tight urban areas. And they'll figure out new ways to move people that may not involve every individual owning a car. And that's real world today. And that's how they're thinking about urbanization. By the way, it affects almost every business. I was in Minneapolis yesterday at a major retailer. And you know what they're thinking about as 1 billion people move to cities over the next year, the next 10 years? They're figuring out, all of a sudden, does it matter being at superstores and mega stores that we all go to, whether it be Walmart, Best Buy, Target? What they're thinking about is how do you make micro stores and how do you get your product there when you're not going to one store, but you're going to hundreds of stores in an urban area. So the first trend that's going to drive major need for innovation, and already is today, is urbanization. What's the next trend that's out there? The next one is climate change and resource scarcity. So today, our planet, somebody mentioned more people, we have 7 billion people on our Earth today, 7 billion. In 2 decades, we go to 8.3 billion people. 8.3 billion people. In order to sustain 8.3 billion people on our planet, we will need 50% more energy. We will need 40% more water, and we will need 35% more food. How do we do that? How do we make sure that we get more of those 3 precious resources when we don't have enough today? Anybody here from California? Okay, so did I see a hand back there? Yep. What's a big problem in California these days? Water, right? Not that we go to bed at night worrying about heat in Massachusetts or here in Newton, but if you're in California, you may know there was just a ban placed on using water, filling pools is no longer allowed in certain areas. How will we solve that challenge? We will solve it by innovating. You boys ever hear of desalination? Anybody know what that is? Right? Take the salt out of the ocean and you convert it to drinking water. That's exactly right. Anybody want to guess how many desalination plants exist around the world today? Technology's there, right? How many? 16,000. How many people does that provide water for across the world? It's 300 million, only 300 million. The reason, even though we have the technology today, the reason we only can cover 300 million people is because the cost of energy is so high to run those desalination plants, it's cost prohibitive. There are 2 billion people on this earth today who are water disadvantaged, meaning they don't have access to a clean latrine, a clean shower, and clean drinking water. Massive need for innovation. Many of you know of an index called Fast Company Inc. It's the fastest growing companies all across the world. 40% of those are innovative companies around solving the water issue. That will be an issue that provide you all major opportunity to help drive innovation. Question on climate change and resource scarcity. If you're the CEO of Coca-Cola, what are you worrying about around climate change and resource scarcity? What are you worried about? What's almost, yep. Limited supply of water, exactly right. So these issues are front and center today, and the CEO of Coca-Cola is looking for innovative people who have the teaming, the collaboration, and the foresight to figure out those ideas. Let's quickly go to the next trend. The next trend that out there is massive demographic shifts in our world. As I said, we'll go to 8.3 billion people. We have 49 countries in the world where we're getting older. The leading country is Japan. In Japan, the population is aging at incredibly fast rates. So you have fundamental questions, which is how do you meet workforce needs? Talent. Like people like you are needed in Japan as you go to college and enter the workforce. There's not enough. How do we solve simple problems as taking care of the elderly? And we will solve that through technology and robotics. It's not a surprise that Japan is one of the leading countries in robotic technology. In Japan today, robots can play cards and board games with elderly people because people are innovating to solve these problems. And teams are coming together, companies are coming together to solve these problems to meet a massive market need. And by the way, the demographic issues don't just go to age, they also go to income inequality. I'll give you a very important and frankly very startling fact. The wealthiest 85 people in the world, the wealthiest 85 people have more wealth than the poorest 3 billion. Just think about that. The world's wealthiest 85 people have more money than the poorest 3 billion people. One of all of our responsibilities is how do we figure out to get some wealth and income inequality into those 3 billion people. Why? Yes, some of us may view it that's a good thing to do, but if we want to sell products, if we want to hire workers, we've got to figure out ways to put wealth in their hands. And the projects that you're working on allow us to do that. And innovation allows us to do that. Let me go to the last trend quickly. The last trend is rapid and accelerating rates of technological advancement, something that I know almost every one of your projects has some element of. And the reason I like to do this one last is because it's pretty intimidating talking about 1 billion people moving to cities. It's pretty intimidating talking about how do you deal with an environment where we don't have enough water, and it's pretty intimidating talking about these significant demographic shifts that are happening. The reason I go with technology last, it is the way we will solve many of these problems. In almost every company we meet with, regardless of what industry they're in, whether it be the airline industry, whether it be the banking industry, healthcare industry, they are looking at technology and figuring out how do they use technology to solve important problems. And they're looking to say, how do I get the talent in boys and women and girls who are adept at using technology to help them solve problems. So today, I'll give you a statistic. 90% of the data that exists in the world today, 90%, was created in the last 2 years. 90% of the data that exists was created in the last 2 years. Why? because every one of us has one of more devices that we're creating a digital footprint that tells the world more and more about us. Yet only 90% has been analyzed. That gives all of us massive opportunities to figure out, how do you analyze that data to help people live better and longer lives, to help companies get to customers faster, quicker, cheaper, to help us make sure we're figuring out the best and most efficient ways to educate. And here's the upside. Only 0.5% of that data today has been analyzed. Only 0.5%. The opportunity for all of us to leverage technology, to leverage data analytics, social media, mobile technology, and the cloud is massive. And almost every executive I meet with, they're figuring out, how do they access innovative ideas, innovative mindsets to take advantage of analyzing that data to improve their business, improve the way they serve their customers. So boys, as you get ready to go up here, let me just leave you with a couple of thoughts. The projects that you're working on are very important. Not only have you learned important teaming, not only have you experienced some small failures along the way, you've learned to collaborate, but most importantly, you're trying. And one thing we know about innovation, and any leading business executive will tell you this, that if you're not failing, you're not learning. And by trying different ideas, you ultimately get to great solutions. And these trends that I talked about, they give you massive opportunity. And so I would ask you to think about today, not as an endpoint where you get to finally present your project that you worked so hard on, but think about those trends and the innovative skills that you learned as an opportunity to solve some of the most important challenges and opportunities for you going forward. So with that, boys, good luck. I wish you the best, and I look forward to hearing some of the ideas. Thank you.
So as we transition right now, I'll have the panelists just take their seats, their respective name placards. So boys, this is how it's gonna work, okay? Myself, and the Sharks have agreed upon a fixed budget for them. We're not going to reveal that to you, but it's truly up to them to budget their money based on what they see. They're taking a gamble on you and your ideas, and they have to figure out what is going to be the best investment for their group, right? They're working in 4 teams of 2, okay? You guys ready to go?